Today is going to be a fun day. You and I are going to go do some waterfall photography. But it's not just going to be a point and shoot and show you a photo. I want to take you along with me and show you the settings. Various settings. We're going to do a little experimenting. We're going to show a lot of side-by-side comparisons based on a shutter speed, exposure, aperture, all that stuff. And I think that's a great way to learn, is to look at things in side-by-side or 3-up. And yeah, so this will be an exciting video. It may not seem like completely ideal conditions for most people, but it is completely overcast and it is raining a little bit, which is exciting because that is ideal for waterfalls. Without the direct sunlight, the harsh light, we don't have to worry so much about highlights in the water, especially with longer exposures. And you still have reflection, so we'll get into some circular polarizer type work. But yeah, come along. I can't wait to get over there and take you through some settings. And we are at Minnehaha Falls in North Georgia, and I can hear the falls. I might be able to see them in the distance there. So come along and let's have some fun. This is an incredible scene. I am at Minnehaha Falls. If I had to guess, that's probably a 50-60 foot drop top to bottom in this level. You get down lower and there's some smaller falls that are part of it, but this is pretty amazing. I'm just standing here soaking it up right now. One issue I see is that I need to cross this water and get on the other side on that flat rock and try to eliminate this tall tree from this left side cutting into the image. I did some research and I've seen a lot of photos from over on that side because this isn't visible. This looks like a really heavy amount of water because it's poking up on the real far edges of the banks, way up on that right side behind those little branches that you can see. This is pretty intense. So much to look at and to choose from as far as little cascades. I see these rocks here stepping, all these little cascades, so much, man, all the way up both sides. And it's lightly raining. Hopefully I won't run into too many people coming out here. This is going to be a lot of fun. Let's hope the heavy rain holds off. All right, let's get set up over on that side. Oh, I see the water spot. Let me just get on this side and show you where I'm set up. So I've got my tripod on the rock, not in the water. Try to avoid that whenever possible because with longer exposures, you know, a little bit of vibration can make a difference between really sharp images or not. I have 3 lenses with me. I have a 70-200, I have a 24-70, which is what's on the camera now, and I also have a 14-24. All of them are f2.8. But I scoped out, I thought I was going to need the wider lens here, but the 24-70 will work. Let me come around here. I got to be careful. This rock, even though it's stable, it is wet and slippery, so I'm taking all kinds of baby movements here. So you can see on the back of the camera, I'm able to get the whole falls in. Even if I wanted to, I could get some of the sky. It's not very bright, so I might do that a little bit. Try to get some bigger, wider shots to give a little more context. I've got a lot of the foreground. I mean, the bottom of the falls is in the middle of my frame right now. I'm gonna play around with compositions. I just wanted to show you my setup real quick. Once you get set up, it's up to you, to think about composition. We're not going to do as much discussion about composition here. just a little bit. There's just so much to look at and enjoy with this fall. Right now I've got mine set up in portrait. On screen, I am really digging the colors of the foreground with, it's just below here, the browns just below the surface of the water, the rock. On screen, it really shows up well. It's got a little bit of a trail coming off that down to a little pool here on the bottom left. So it's giving that that kind of point up arrow. Look up what's happening up here. I'll do some different compositions with less foreground and more focus on the falls. Ideally, you want to be between f8 and f14. Of course, everything is there's no fast rule. Photography, that's what's awesome about it. You can really do whatever you want. Whatever looks good to you is what's important. So I'm at ISO 100, f13, and I'm starting at 1/5 of a second. We're gonna take this portrait shot. I'm gonna do different settings. I do not have a circular polarizer on at this point. The sun is not very bright, although water still reflects, regardless of, I mean, you got a bright sky above us here, so that is reflecting, and you can kind of see it in these areas here. Before I move the camera or get a different composition, I will switch to adding a circular polarizer so you can see that difference as well. But right now, where I'm focusing is almost dead center in the frame, which looking at is pretty much this largest bottom rock here. And let's bring up on the Nikon. It took me a while. I'm just starting to get into paying attention to histogram in association, combined with my settings. So in live view on a Nikon, I have the D850, you hit OK, and that brings it up. So you can see we're really spiking off here for the lights. It's got an exposure meter up there. We're just at 0 or a hair below. So I brought the ISO to 160, and that just gets we're peaking right at the top. On screen, it looks like it's going to be too hot here. That's where maybe the circular polarizer would help a little bit, as well as maybe an ND filter as well. But I'm going to go ahead and get this shot. I'm going to take the off there. I'm going to hit autofocus. That's a pretty good spot to focus on. I'm doing a 3 exposure bracket by taking my one kind of normal, where my settings are shot, as well as under and overexposing. Then in post-processing, I can get in there and adjust with the highlights and have a little better control over what's going on in the image. So let's. I got a 2-second timer. That's the other important thing in association with any longer exposure, even at this 1/5 of a second, is you get a 2-second timer. That way you can back away from the camera, and your camera will stop shaking or vibrating just for that brief moment of pressing the shutter. And you'll see as this cycles through, it'll show the 3 images: normal, darker, and lighter. And I've got it set up, I think it's set up to 1/3 of a stop over and under. I could go even more, but there's the over, there's the under, and there's the normal. But you can see in the under, that's actually not that bad with what's going on here in the falls itself. I might use the underexpose a little bit as the starting point. All right, because I'm trying to mimic the overall exposure of the image, but just have a longer shutter speed, using the histogram, that helps me. So I think I've got pretty close. I had to go down on this camera. I can go down to ISO 64. I left it at f14, but the exposure is longer at 1/2 a second. And let's just double check. Okay, I know in this instant I can trust the autofocus. And let's take this one. And we'll show the 1/5 of a second and the 1/2 a second side by side, so you can see the difference there. And what that's going to change is the appearance of the flowing water. All the rocks, all the leaves should be, you know, everything, nothing, it's no wind, so nothing's moving. But what we're playing with is the look, the appearance of the water coming down the rocks. Now, it's not a very fast moving waterfall because it's hitting all these rocks, the steps all the way down. So it doesn't gain that free fall velocity. But I'm going to take it all the way up to a second and try to mimic my overall exposure and see what the 1 second difference does compared to the 1/5, 1/2. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to leave it at f14 1 second. I might go to f18 just to try and get the overall exposure similar, because we're really focusing on the shutter speed for the flow of water. But this is a prime example of when you're keeping the exposure longer, an ND filter would come in handy to close down that light. All right, notice the overall exposure in the histogram is very similar at the 1 second mark. So I don't like to always fully trust the autofocus, so every once in a while I'll just double check it. Again, we're doing the bracket over and under by a third of a stop. So let's look. There's the overexposed. There's the under. I'm still liking the look of the under, but let's get this at least on the back of the camera. And you can see the smoothness of the water. The longer you leave the lens, the shutter open, more of that water is passing by and getting captured. So, all right, I can't get 5 seconds without a filter and get the overall exposure under control. So let's see what I can do at 2 seconds. All right, f22. That's a lot. But the overall exposure isn't that far off. Now I can already tell at 2 seconds, this water down here, this flatter, less action, less white water, is really smoothing out, and I actually don't like that. All right, so we've got the circular polarizer on. I'm just going to turn the polarizer. See how that brightened up in the bottom and how it darkens right there? We're cutting all the reflection. I'm having a little trouble. I'm at a 1/5 of a second, f11. I had to bump the ISO up to 320 to get anywhere close to the exposure I had before without it. I do have it cranked all the way down, I mean the polarizer, because of the water underneath. So you can see a little bit how that changes the width of the band in that histogram. So I wanted to show it cranked all the way down and get a sense of what that does. We'll hit autofocus. Since I put the polarizer on, let's double check our focus. Okay. Now this looks really dark on the back of the camera. But what that does is I'll put the images side by side, the 1/5 of a second with polarizer and without. And I think you'll see a difference in the actual waterfall, the highlights in that area coming down. All right, let's do one. Let's ease back on the circular polarizer and kind of go in the middle. Just tone it down a little bit. All right, so let's try 1/2 a second and see what we can do with the polarizer. All right, ISO 200 really mimics, it's a little wider in this area, but I think we're looking good to compare. So 1/2 a second, f11, ISO 200. And as far as post-processing, my preference is to start an image that has been underexposed versus overexposed, because in those areas that are where there's more white, there's less information to actually recover and use. But in an area that's darker, there's still some color information in there that makes it just a little bit easier to go in one direction with. Okay, so let's try a second with the polarizer. I didn't crank the polarizer all the way down for that last shot. But let's go to 1 second and see what we can deal with here. All right, this one, back down to ISO 100, f11, 1 second is really on the dark side, but let's give it a shot. The rain's coming down harder too, I noticed. In this setup in portrait mode, we've gone over some different examples. The rain's really starting to come down, so I don't know how much longer I'll record. I do have an umbrella. Let me get that out. All right, I kind of like this composition. It's tighter on the waterfall. It also eliminates this tree on the left side. There's a lot less of the pool on the bottom. I'm leaving it with a little extra space up top and a little extra space on the bottom. I can see already, I'm gonna crop that just a little bit, especially on the bottom. I got a brown rock that is just sitting at the bottom. I wanna get rid of. So this will be more of a 4x5, I think, kind of shot with a little squish in the top and bottom there. But yeah, I'm gonna take a shot, different settings, and we'll show those up on screen. Now these shots, which are zoomed in closer up on the falls, getting it more in frame, less foreground, is a lot of what I've seen other people taking. I mean, it's a popular spot. You can't avoid it. So I'm at a 1/2 second. That's a lot of times. That's where I like to end up. Again, it depends on the speed of the water. But let's see if I can do something more with the circular polarizer at that 1/2 second to show you maximum and minimum. Go to a 1/5 of a second and see what that does with the polarizer in both directions. All right, at a 1/5 of a second, I did have to change my aperture and my ISO to try and mimic the overall exposure. So I'm at 1/5 of a second, f8, ISO 320. Let's change the polarizer. All right, so again, the shutter speed with the moving water is a personal preference. Some people like that really silky smooth look. Some people like to capture more of the actual frozen movement parts, and that's where you get to the 1/5 of a second, or even faster than that. I've been staying in portrait. I'm gonna try to do some landscape. Let's see what happens with landscape. I would definitely be introducing that tree on the left side. over here, and more of the leaves, the rhododendron on the right. Let's see what I can do with that. We got some adventurous people here coming in the rain, so I'll wait for them to get their photos. But one thing I noticed is when I switched to landscape, with the rain and the mist at the top of the waterfall and kind of in the leaves on each side, and it's really evident on here. I wish I could show you that better, especially with the circular polarizer, man. Yeah, this has become much moodier. I can't wait to play with this some more once these people are out of the frame. All right, so I think I have a composition I can work with. I haven't messed with the exposure settings yet, but the tree is definitely in it. I think I'm going to crop just a hair off the bottom. I got one of those rocks again, just kind of just in frame, but I'm holding an umbrella as well as dealing with two cameras here. So I'm going to take, let's mess with the exposure setting. Got to clean off my polarizer. That went well, and it didn't go bad at all, but I am thoroughly drenched. I thought I had my rain protector, like cover in my bag, and it was nowhere to be found, so I had to leave to protect my gear. So, but I think I got enough footage to do what I came here to accomplish. It's still raining pretty hard, and thank you for watching. I hope maybe you learned something. I did, actually, being out here, about being in the rain and filming. Sometimes the worst conditions are actually the best for landscape photography. And yeah, if you like this content, if you want to see more videos, if you want to put me out in the rain again and try to show some settings and some other scenarios, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'd be happy to come out here and you know, tromp through the mud and the roots and everything, and get some photography footage for you. All right, I will talk to you later. Alone at last. And what else here? I'm going to get wet. I gotta put my hood up. Yeah, so here's where I'm at, and I'm gonna be here for a while. Plop, 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 with Minnehaha Falls. Oh, I got it. I got water. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, it is actually. Gee, I wonder why I'm the last vehicle in the parking lot for the Minnehaha trails. Trails fall? Yeah, Falls Trail. It would be good to be dry.